It's Tuesday, June 28th, 2011. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, Small World.
Let's do this.
So I've been playing some games lately.
Really?
A lot of games. We've been playing some Reef Encounter. We got to talk about that.
We played it once.
Yeah, we just
gotta
played.
I think we got to play it some more.
We played Small World twice. We've been really kind of up in the local hardcore gaming in the last weeks.
Well, we've been, it's been too hard for too long to get people to play serious games. So we put in like an extra effort to actually, directly organize them to be like, look, we're playing some fucking serious games. If you want to play them, then fucking show up.
Yep, so it's going well. Also, we started up our big Burning Wheel game, our, bi-weekly, actual, for-real campaign. Of course, Burning Wheel Revised just came out.
Yeah, basically it's like, gaming was like rain. It's like every once in a while it would rain. We'd be like, gaming. And then it would go away. And it would come back. But lately there's been a gaming drought.
Yeah.
So we finally...
we go through seasons.
We got so thirsty, we had to just dig a fucking well because it wasn't raining.
I mean, there was a time we had anime season where I was watching so much anime it was crazy, and anime season's coming back a little bit. I'm plowing through Fist of the North Star right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Man.
So I had to use my personal days by the end of the month at work because the way the company that bought us works is they reset or whatever, right? So I took off today and yesterday. So I was at the grocery store, and since I had more time to go at the grocery store, I've always been disappointed with their bread selection. So I was looking more closely in the bread aisle for a superior bread.
Oh, so you're looking for like packaged sliced bread, not like the bakery bread.
Yeah, the bread over by the bakery was mad weak at this particular store.
See, at least I got near me the food cellar. Food cellar is basically take Wegmans and make it a quarter the size and a quarter the quality.
Yeah.
So better than everything else, but
basically both Key Food and Associated, which are the two supermarkets near me, have not good bread choice. So I was looking really close on all the breads, and I saw some rye breads, packaged rye breads, so they weren't as good as fresh rye breads, obviously.
Of course.
But it was Levy's rye bread, so it was a Jewish brand at least, all right?
I think I've had Levy's.
So I was looking, and I was like, okay, they got rye bread, no seeds. I think there was even a sesame rye, but then I saw something.
Marble?
It was the most amazing rye bread I've ever seen. It was everything rye bread.
What? Like everything bagel?
Exactly.
Whoa.
So I got everything rye bread. I was like, ah, shit. And, the bread part was, packaged rye bread.
Yeah.
But the everything part was fucking everything. So I'll be buying that bread more in the future if I can't find anything better.
Well, if we're talking food, so I wandered in a direction I normally don't go. Like, I usually go toward Bryant Park for lunch, but I went the other way, which I often don't go.
Yeah, isn't that weird? It's like, even at my office, it's like when we go out for lunch, you always go in one direction, even though there's 4 directions to go in.
Yep.
Unless you live on the ocean, or the river. But usually everyone goes in one direction for lunch, even if they eat at different places in that direction. I don't know why that is. Is there a psychological thing about it?
Well, I mean, for me, I want to go to the park, so I want to eat near the park, even though there's better food in almost every other direction.
Aren't there, like, other parks?
Not as good as Bryant Park. It's pretty much the best park that isn't Central Park.
Mm-hmm.
So I go over, like, the other way, and there's a banh mi place that wasn't there before.
Uh-oh.
So I get some banh mi, and it's really good.
$5.
And I'm sitting in, like, Le Pain Quotidien. They have one over there, too, and they have a little, like, thing in the road you can sit on that's open to the public. So I sat there eating my banh mi, and it was all good and nice. And I look up, and you know what I see? What's the one food that we can't get in this fucking city?
Fucking sandwich.
Fucking sandwich.
Was there a
Submarine
DeBella's?
Sandwich. Not a DeBella's.
Was there no?
It's half as good as a DeBella's. We're halfway there. Remember that place in Baltimore, that Potbelly Sandwiches?
Oh, yeah, that's not really a sub place, though.
They have subs,
That was like
though.
a barbecue-ish
No,
place, wasn't
Scott,
it?
that place has subs, too.
All right.
Straight up subs. Good subs.
All right.
They're not DeBella's quality. They're like...
I remember that being a barbecue place.
Because I guess you got the barbecue. They had straight up subs.
I remember it being primarily barbecue.
You're completely wrong.
Maybe the in Baltimore one did. I don't remember it having subs. That's all I'm saying.
Ahem. Potbelly Sandwiches.
I don't
Turkey
know if
breast,
that-
Italian,
I don't know if
Iraq.
that's the same place.
It is the same place, Scott. It's the exact same place. I ate there the last Otakon we went to 3 times.
I don't know.
The one over by the Hard Rock Cafe. On
I
the
know.
wall.
I also ate there.
There's another one on the other side of the convention center, too.
All right, I will use their store locator, and then that will settle this deal.
I can't believe you don't remember.
Oh, they do. Maryland is highlighted.
Yeah.
So let's click on it.
Yeah, bitch.
All right. There's Baltimore is highlighted. Let's click on that.
Because I remember getting the Wreck 2 times and the Italian once, and they are 4 times better than Quiznos, which means they're half as good as DeBella's.
It does say Inner Harbor.
So what? There is, Scott. Now, there is a barbecue place around there, too. That is not this place.
I'm pretty sure
Though
it was
this place did have a barbecue sandwich.
I'm pretty sure it was this. Because, I don't know.
You're wrong.
I think it was the pig in the branding is what makes you think of barbecue.
Yeah, well, there's a barbecue place, too, Scott. I just think you're an old man who can't remember stuff.
Anyway.
We
haven't been there in a while.
A couple years.
It doesn't look like we're going there this year.
So one of these places is opening in Midtown.
All right.
Yeah.
So it's not open yet?
No, because I'm sitting there eating my banh mi, and I'm really liking it.
I don't know if it's half as good as DeBella's.
It's at least a third as good as DeBella's.
Yeah, maybe. That's about
But I look up, and I'm eating my banh mi, and I'm liking it. But then I see this Potbellies. I'm like, no way. No way. And then suddenly I look at my banh mi, and I'm like, fuck this. And I walk over there to see if I can like get a half sandwich just because, and they're not open yet.
Mm-hmm.
There's a guy like setting up.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so we'll see.
All right.
But I've been playing games, like I said. I've been playing some Pac-Man.
Uh-huh.
Going up in the ranks.
What's your world rank in Pac-Man?
I am 2,138th.
Yeah, I'm 300 something now. I think I used to be 240 something, so it's
I've
because that's because I haven't played.
I look though, the number of people who hacked their scores at the top is substantially reduced. So I went in and reported everyone with a hacked score last night.
Nice. But also, on top of that, it's like not only have I not played in a while, but when I did try to play like a couple days ago, or like I think,
oh my god, I can't beat like any of my high scores.
I couldn't beat my own high scores.
I
like
play and I'm like,
anything.
what the fuck did I do? I'm like 4 million short here.
Well, not 4 million short. I was
on
like
a 10-minute run.
I was basically 10,000 short. I was like, that was perfect run, and I was 10,000 short of my previous score. And I'm like, well, I really don't know what else I can do.
I was
here.
watching some replays of the people who have way better scores than me, and they just fucking die and bomb all the time.
Uh-huh.
Like they'll die and just not even care.
But what are they? Are they following a different path than the one that I feel is the right path? What are they? What are they doing to get this higher score?
Because there's a pattern, and I think they've memorized the pattern of layouts.
But it's like I've also memorized the pattern, and I follow it precisely without dying or bombing. So how are they getting a higher score than me?
Probably by dying and bombing.
How does dying and bombing get you a higher score?
A lot of times what they'll do is they'll start a combo, and then at the end, they'll keep it going on the individual ghosts with pellets in them for a while.
I do that too. I tried that and I actually got a lower score.
Yeah, so
without dying or bombing.
I don't know. Just watch some replays. You'll see what I mean. You'll see people with way better scores just fucking die and keep going.
I got to see it. I need basically the point I can't break is 2 million. I can get like 1.8. I need to see a 2 million video to figure it out.
But I've been playing a little bit of Team Fortress 2.
Why?
Because now hear me out. One, all the listeners are getting into it, and
it's because they all suck at games. They want to play baby games.
This is where I always disagree with you, because Team Fortress 2 was not for me. It was not for us. It is, it's kind of like
You want to hear some bad news?
Mm-hmm.
That Tribes Ascend.
Oh, I just assumed bad news.
It's gonna be
an MMO,
free to play, and where you buy more weapons.
Oh my god,
shit.
we need to do a show.
It's
on
basically
this.
gonna be a free game, but you can buy different weapons loadouts with real money.
Is euphemism for we're trying to trick 13-year-olds into buying
every
hats.
free to play game is Gunbound.
Yep, and you know what? Gunbound.
Also, what's that? The Korean kart racing thing. They're all the same.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, Gunbound was really fun until the money came in and we all.
I think
quit.
that's what's really disappointing is that some of these free to play games would be awesome if they would just sell them for $50 and give you every downloaded thing instead of being free to play.
At least when we were playing, you could play on vanilla, matches that they still had the items for money, but the items had no game effect.
That is true.
So you could still play the perfect game and not worry about the money bullshit.
That would be cool.
There aren't so many Team Fortress servers doing the same thing. But
I didn't know Team Fortress had that option.
Is there a way
to turn off all hats and all extra weapons, or give everyone all hats and all extra weapons?
Supposedly there is a way to run a server in vanilla mode.
Really? Does that give everyone everything, or does it take everything away from everyone?
I'm not sure. And honestly,
because there is a significant difference.
Honestly, I would be fine with either, but I would prefer nothing.
But even if you do that, the game is still slow.
Slow. But here's the thing: slow.
Everyone's models are really big.
There's I had two primary complaints about Team Fortress 2. One is that they got stateful bullshit on my stateless competition game. I even filed a trouble ticket with Steam when they first did that.
Okay.
They never responded.
No, they don't care.
But two, that the game wasn't for us. It's not a hardcore, FPS in FPS.
They should have just called it something else instead of Team Fortress 2 because it's
But it's still a good game for what it is, as I've always said, and I enjoyed playing it.
It's a funny game. I like watching videos about
here's my
meeting
analogy.
various
Playing
guys.
Team Fortress 2 is for the same kinds of people like me who play Yomi to get the high-level Street Fighter experience. I will never be good enough at Street Fighter for any of that strategy.
So you're saying that people who want to be good at an FPS but they suck and they don't really want to learn any or build any skills can play Team Fortress 2 and feel like they have skills.
I'm actually saying one thing under that. What I'm saying is that I admit that I'm not super good at Street Fighter.
No kidding.
I am not the
Me
best
either.
at that game.
Really.
But you're an order of magnitude better than me.
Only one.
And I'm an order of magnitude better than babies who have never played games before.
There's still 20 orders of magnitude above me.
I know.
It's the same. It's the same even with FPSs. Like I try to play, hardcore quote FPSs like, Counter-Strike or NS, which are significantly harder than Team Fortress 2.
Oh, I'll be on a nub server of Counter-Strike and wreck everybody, and then I'll be on a clan match and I won't even kill a single person.
Right. There's still the same, I'm still better. It's the same level that I am in Street Fighter. I'm better than a lot of people, but there's tons and tons of people better than me. If I play NS, I just get hosed like, plenty. If I play Counter-Strike, I get hosed. I don't win a gun game really ever,
Yeah, but all I'm saying is that it's the same experience for people who play Yomi, where you can at least play all the high-level stuff of an FPS like that.
So an FPS is testing many skills, and this removes
one of them.
Some of, 2 or 3 of those skill tests.
But it keeps the rest, because look at, the old Team Fortress or Weapons Factory and all that. Those tested FPS skills if you define those as clicking on the other guy's head and rocket jumping around crazily with a grappling hook, which is awesome, and I like that stuff. But it also tested team coordination, class balance, loadout, the paper, rock, scissors, tactical, disposition.
So is this your news we're talking about here? The fact that Team Fortress 2 is free to play now?
No, I'm just saying that I've been playing it because our listeners have been playing it, and they made a server, and funny thing about Team Fortress 2, I was playing and it was working okay. Then I looked, I had a ping of like 200, and it didn't matter.
I guess that doesn't matter because the game's so slow and the model's just so big.
But I'm going to keep playing it a bit with the listeners because I enjoy the game when I'm playing it and not playing it for the FPS skill, click on the heads aspect, but for all the other aspects. That part of it was only ruined because of the stateful bullshit. And you can mitigate that by playing with nubs, and most of our listeners are nubs.
That's for sure. That's why they like Team Game.
You can also mitigate it by playing scrims, where you're playing a real match. Like, all right, we've got 2 teams where we chose the teams ahead of time. We're playing on real maps, as in not 2 Fort, where everybody turtles for an hour. And it's actually kind of fun, especially with all talk.
I don't know why people turtle for an hour. If I was playing 2 Fort and my people were actually organized, right, I would have...
Well, no, you turtle for 59 minutes, and then you rush and then turtle again.
But the thing is, if my people were actually organized, right, what I would do is I would set up the invincible defense with engineers and snipers, right, out in the front, and then I would have the entire rest of the team basically constantly rush in a group, right? So it's rush water, go. Rush top, go. Rush, and we basically
at least in
every
clan
time
matches back in the day, there's a slightly more nuanced strategy. You don't want to.
You could also do the split rush.
You don't do the
half
rushes.
Water, half top.
No, you do constant harassment to wear down their will, and then every now and then.
But they respawn instantly, so you can't actually wear them down.
You don't respawn instantly.
You respawn really
No,
quickly.
it's actually, there's a significant delay, and a big part of games like that is when you've killed enough of the team, you suddenly kill your defense, go almost all offense with like 1 pyro in the basement. You go all out offense, cap once, and then turtle 100% for a few minutes.
Yeah, that's another thing, is if you can set up, right, a crazy powerful defense in the back near the intelligence, right, then you actually can just not put any defense on the fort at all.
That depends. Anyway, I don't want to talk about Team Fortress much longer, but suffice it to say, if you play on the bigger maps and you don't want it to be a game about clicking and FPS skills and all that stuff, and you want it to be about all the other things, and you play on a vanilla server or a password-protected server, it is kind of fun, and we're going to do some team-based for real scrims after Connecticut.
If you want to play a man's game...
well, here's the deal.
We're still playing NS1
Here's the
here.
deal. If the listeners, and they're coming up to the challenge, especially Naito, make this scrim like for real, we pick teams with team captains and do it happen, I have committed to making the for real Counter-Strike server and doing the same thing.
All right, Counter-Strike is playable. I'll do that.
Because I'm getting that new HTPC, so I'm going to run the server on that.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of gaming news, actually, like the Supreme Court saying, video games are absolutely free speech. What the fuck?
Oh, my.
Which I knew that was going to happen, because that's happened every time it's ever gone to court, pretty much. The thing is, 2 justices were dicks, so we know who's a jerk.
Thing is, only 2. Usually it's like 5-4.
Well, I mean, when it's a free speech issue, it's all like, go look at the history. I mean,
we pretty much never lose the free speech issues.
Right. Anyway, but the thing is, there's not much to say about it except, like, hell's yeah.
Duh.
Right?
Kind of like gay marriage in New York, like, duh.
Yeah, so I wanna talk about Geekbite, right? So this game came out called F.E.A.R 3. I didn't play that. What I did play was F.E.A.R 1 and 2.
Oh, I think I bought that pack.
Because there was a pack on Steam. It was like $10 for both games and all their expansions and add-ons and DLCs and everything. So I was like, all right. And I had played the F.E.A.R 1 demo when it first came out, when it was a brand new game. So now it's an old game and my computer's much newer, so I can play this game awesomely. So I beat all of F.E.A.R 1, the whole thing. Yep. And this is what I have to say about it, because I got a lot to say about it, actually.
Uh-oh.
So it's a single-player FPS, so if you don't like single-player FPS already, don't bother, right? Number 2, it borrows a lot from Half-Life, actually, right? In that there's a story that's sort of integrated with the game, kind of. Not as well as Half-Life, but kind of. The major selling point of the game is how the AI is, quote, smarter, right? But it's not actually smarter. It just does things that make it look smarter. Like, it'll poke its head around from behind walls or run and jump over some furniture. And in
you mean like most AIs?
Yeah, it basically makes all the enemies look like they're doing smarter things, like knocking over furniture and hiding behind it, when they're not actually any smarter than the guys in, say, Half-Life 2, right? You still just own them all. One problem with the game is that it's much too long, or at least it feels much too long. That could be because there's a lot of really repetitive parts where it's like going through an office building, fighting the same soldiers over and over again for like a half hour.
See, this is where good design comes in.
They
Half-Life
needed to
1 and 2, every time I started to get bored, suddenly shit changed.
Yep. They need to compress a lot of it, so that the plot moves more quickly, Well, not the plot, but the game moves more quickly, right?
Yep.
You get more different things happening more often. They borrowed a lot of other design things from Half-Life also. Like, you get to see a bad guy from a vantage point, but you don't get to fight him, and then later you fight him, right? So it's like you get to see him and see what he's all about before you get, all that good design stuff. The game lets you poke your head around from behind corners, right? There's like 2 buttons. You can lean left or lean right. I hadn't played a game with those controls since Soldier of Fortune 1.
Oh my God, I remember that game.
So I was getting used to it again, and being much wiser now than when Soldier of Fortune 1 came out, I realized this causes sort of a problem in that basically what you do is you go up, in order to make the lean, the way they implemented it, actually work well, you basically have to stand at the edge of a wall, facing the wall so you can't see anything but the wall, and then lean, and that allows you to poke your head out while still having the maximum cover. You like leaning otherwise doesn't really do anything.
Just wait until we get every FPS supporting that head-mounted thing that RMA uses to look around corners.
Right, but this is leaning your whole body to the left or to the right. So like you can be up against the edge of a hallway and sort of put half your torso around the corner to shoot. Right? I don't know why they don't just let you like hold the gun in your left hand and shoot wildly without being able to hit anything around the corner. It's possible, right? It's not going to be too successful. You're probably just going to, the gun will probably just fly off your hand. I would argue it's
primarily contextual feature button creep.
Yeah, probably. But anyway, so that changed the game a lot. But the one thing that changed the game the most, and I think is the game's major flaw, right, is that they let you save whenever the fuck you want. You can just quick save all the time. So basically, anytime you go into a situation...
I think I could do that in Half-Life 1 and 2, though.
Yeah, so basically, it's really easy to hit the button. So basically, I would go into a situation, right? Because the game is like quiet, action, quiet, action, quiet, action. And if I didn't perform perfectly, I'd just be like, load.
That's how I got good at Doom 2.
Yeah, load. Shoot. I hosed all the guys, But to make it worse, on top of that, right, you have this slow motion ability. So basically, you can turn everything into Matrix time, right? Now, and there's a meter, so it runs out, and then you have to stand and wait for it to recharge. So, of course, during all the quiet times, you wait for it to recharge fully before you continue, and that's what makes the game feel longer, I think, is that you're constantly sitting there waiting for it to recharge, because why wouldn't you? right? If you're sitting there quietly, why wouldn't you wait for it to recharge?
That is the problem with every game that has ever given you the ability to wait and have stuff recharge that didn't pull an Ultima and randomly attack you all the time.
Yep. Now the other thing, right, is they expect you, right, to turn on this slow motion ability, go into a room full of guys and hose them all down while the slow motion ability runs out. And there's some situations where they give you so many bad guys in one area that you wouldn't be able to keep the slow motion power running while also killing all the guys.
Run in, kill him, run out, wait.
No, it's even more simple than that. Because once you get, right, basically what the slow motion ability really is remove all aiming skill. Because what you do is basically you see a bad guy, you tap the button, he basically pauses because he's going so slow, but you're still going full speed. So basically pause, shoot, unpause. Every single bad guy in the whole game. Pause, shoot, unpause. You can basically get headshots on every single guy because you can pause them. So you just pause them really quick. You use like a tiny fraction of the slow motion meter. So basically pause, headshot, unpause, pause, headshot, unpause. It never runs out.
So this is where game theory would have helped the game developer because
you basically never lose, unless the only time you can lose is if you like run out into a room where there's too many bad guys and they can all shoot you.
Did you play on the highest difficulty?
Aha. So I played on normal difficulty because that's what I usually want to play on, right? Because easy is boring. And
hard is usually unfair hacks.
Hard is unfair nightmare mode, right? So I tried the harder difficulties, right? And the harder difficulties give you a lot more bad guys and a lot less resources, so ammo and health become a factor. And, you get hit, it does more damage and things like that, right? But the same basic strategy pretty much held tight. It's just the game went even slower because there would be more bad guys. So it'd be like pause, shoot, unpause, pause, shoot, unpause for 5 minutes to shoot all these guys that are down the other side of the hallway instead of, 2 minutes to shoot the other guys at the other end of the hallway because there were twice as many of them.
So game theory would have helped this because the game designers clearly did not, they designed the game for a certain skill set, but did not also consider what happens if a guy plays perfectly.
Yeah. And plus, if I screwed up, right, and as I got later in the game, it actually was getting easier, not because they made the difficulty easier, but because my skills at pause, shoot, unpause were increasing because I had more practice.
Dude,
and
with the fancy mouse, you can make that automatic. Like, you click, it pauses. You let go, it shoots and unpauses.
Yeah. One other thing about the game, right, is that they did give you this limitation that you could only have 3 weapons at once, right? So it's like, and the thing was, I actually caught myself being stupid. I had a rocket launcher with 0 ammo in it, right? So I was like, I don't want to get rid of the rocket launcher, right? Because you're right. Because what am I going to?
It's a rocket launcher.
But the thing is, nowhere in the game is there ammo lying around. There's only guns. So the only way I could get more rocket launcher ammo was with another rocket launcher. So if I had the rocket launcher with 0 ammo, I was like, why am I holding on to this? Goodbye. There's no reason to hold on to it because there's nowhere I'm going to find box of rockets. I'm only going to find rocket launcher. So if I was going to find ammo for the rocket launcher, there was guaranteed to be a rocket launcher accompanying it. So there was no reason not to get rid of it and pick up, a submachine gun temporarily to fill that spot, F.E.A.R 2, I only started playing today, so I'll talk about that at some other time. But basically, if you want a single-player FPS that is sort of flawed, it has parts that are supposed to be scary, but they're not actually. They just jump out, go boo a couple times. A plot that's not really all that exciting. It's just typical. But you get to shoot guys that are doing cool stuff, for many hours. You can get this game because, while it wasn't the greatest, I think the price was appropriate, which was like $2.
Yeah, well, speaking of price, I'll talk about this briefly because I want to get to
and
our
I just
main
really
bit.
felt like shooting guys.
But, so Capcom supposedly is releasing a game, Resident Evil Mercenaries 3D for the 3DS, that has 1 save slot that cannot be overwritten by any means on the cartridge.
So there's no way to say new game start from the beginning?
No way.
So wait, if I beat the game, is now I can't start over?
See, now we don't know. Maybe you start over with like all your achievements or whatever.
Well, that's usually the way Resident Evil works, is you beat it, but you keep playing it over and over again to get more weapons and all sorts of other stuff.
Something like that.
And then and then eventually by the 3rd time you've beaten it, you go through from the beginning again, and you're like fucking,
Now, we don't know the details.
Guns,
but
lots of guns.
What bothers me about this is that there are games that did stuff like this in the past. Like, there were dungeon crawls, kind of 3D modern roguelikes. But what they would do is
you die, they would delete your save
Yep,
game.
you could put them on hardcore mode, and if you
Dwarf
die...
Fortress is like that.
Yeah. And that sort of mechanic is the kind of thing that I hate, but also love.
Diablo 2 had that. If you played on real Battle.net and you didn't cheat, and you died, your character.
If you didn't cheat.
Everyone cheated. If you were the rare person who played Diablo 2 in the hardcore mode on Battle.net.
If you were a unicorn.
And you died, then your character would actually be gone forever. They should do that. They should make a World of Warcraft that's hardcore.
Or there was
hardcore.
like that. Make any MMO that does something cool like that.
Yeah, hardcore World of Warcraft. Imagine that. You die. No, really? Your character is dead. All your stuff is lying, is where your character died. So if you die when you're a nub, you could maybe go and rescue your stuff, your 5 coppers. But if you're an awesome dude, you probably died in some dungeon somewhere. Maybe some other awesome dude is going to get your shit, but not you, because you're now a nub again. You're level 0. Good luck going to that dungeon and getting your stuff back.
Now, or maybe they would do something like this to do some really cool kind of meta aspect of a game. Like that...
I might even play that. If they set up... Even if they only did it on like a particular server that was like the hardcore server, I might play that, because it wouldn't be about how much time you've played.
Yeah, if there's a guy
much.
who's a high-level badass, damn.
Yeah, right? That means he played the game that long without ever dying, ever.
But another way...
And everyone would play so carefully, too.
That you could use something, a mechanic like this...
And turn PvP on, because it would become much more meaningful.
Would be if you have one of those games like One Shot, where you've got one shot to do something. Like, the whole point of the game is...
Doesn't Spy Party have that, right? You got one shot to shoot the right guy?
Well, I meant in terms of forever.
Oh, okay.
But that does not appear to be what they are doing. And the discussion about this game is basically coming down to Capcom's trying to kill used video game sales. And I would bet that that's actually what they're trying to do.
Probably.
Because, and we've talked about this before, but I'm going to say this absolutely unequivocally. I believe 100% that piracy has never been the threat to media in America, especially games. Secondhand sales and previously made games that aren't worth money anymore are way more damaging to the modern industry than piracy ever was and ever will be.
I don't think they're damaging to the industry.
Well, they're damaging...
I don't think...
Scott, they're damaging to the current industry and the way it works, in that if you sell a game for $50... people will wait until it's $5 because they're not in a hurry to play it.
No, I don't think so. Because someone pirates it, right? Because they wouldn't have paid for it. If they would have paid for it, they pay for it.
Yeah,
right?
that's part of it.
So if the people who are buying and selling used games, right, are mostly punk kids, and they go through this cycle. You know, the heaviest used game buyers are these GameStop kids.
They buy one game, they sell it back.
Yeah,
buy a game, sell it back. Buy a game, sell it back.
For Christmas. They sell it to they beat it. They sell it to the store. They buy a used game. They get a whole bunch of games. They sell them back. Maybe they borrow games or steal games or who knows what they do. But they get games as gifts. They don't have money because they're punk kids. They sell games and they basically go into this used game cycle. And basically GameStop is, taking off percentages in every one of these rotating transactions.
Well, because I know where you're going with this.
So these kids would never buy full price games.
Let me put it this way. The impact of that versus piracy are the same, if in the end, by most accounts, I would argue. The difference is that there are also people like me who will just buy games old or used because I'm in no hurry for just about any game.
Yeah.
And that, used sales and packs and all these things, they're hurting the current industry in the sense that the current industry probably overvalues what games are actually worth to gamers.
Well, Nintendo specifically, right? Nintendo has
said... Yeah, tell that to Nintendo laughing all the way to the bank.
Well, Iwata has said as much. He's like, look, selling these games for $1 and stuff, it's like, you're devaluing games, right?
But at the same time, people who don't value games enough to care don't care. They're going to buy the $1 game.
That's right. And they're not going to buy a $50 game no matter how awesome it is.
But what really bothers me is that something really enshrined in commerce in the United States is the idea of the right to first sale.
Yep.
And it pisses me off that digital distribution is killing that, of all things, and that gaming companies are actively trying to kill it directly with technological measures, this being one tiny step among many.
It doesn't matter because people are just going to pirate this game, and they'll be able to start over
again. The best
again.
part is Capcom, there was an outrage. So Capcom made a statement, quote, "The game's value at secondhand in the UK is not affected by whether or not the game can have its data reset."
I guess sort of, right? I mean, as long as you can start the game from the beginning. Right?
But what if...
Then, let's say I get someone's copy of Resident Evil 4, right? For instance. It's a great game. Probably the best Resident Evil.
I didn't beat it, but you know what? It was pretty fun.
It was really good. And let's say I was forced to play with their memory card. So the game I already had all these weapons and unlocked things, right? But I can still start the game from the beginning and play it straight through just as some guns unlocked and some other shit like that.
Now, it depends, obviously.
That's fine. If I'm paying a used price, do I really care?
Now, it depends, obviously, on what they actually do. I mean, what if you can't change your name, for example, or something?
Who cares?
We don't
Just
know.
a name.
A lot of people care about that.
Now, it would be really weird if like it had an online multiplayer component and you had to use their profile, but that's tied to like an Xbox Live account. But this is 3DS, so it's that's not gonna happen. Now, imagine this though. Imagine if it wasn't a game like Resident Evil. Imagine if it was Pokemon, where you could never undo the game.
Yeah, Nintendo.
You can't start Pokemon from if you couldn't start Pokemon again from the beginning.
Can't farm the starters.
Yeah, you can't go back to the starting Pokemon. You pick it and it's locked.
I'm just
and
waiting
if
for
you
Nintendo
sell me,
because if
Nintendo
you
sell
did
me
this,
your used game, the Elite Four is already open. I can't re-experience the plot ever.
I'll be
that's
perfectly honest. If Nintendo did that, my prediction is that they would sell surprisingly more copies of Pokemon.
I actually would have to agree that
there would be outrage.
All the normal people wouldn't even know there was a problem. And
the hardcore people would buy it anyway.
They would buy
'cause it's Pokemon.
They would just buy all the Poke kids who are just normal kids and aren't smart enough to get like a piracy card, right? Would just buy it as normal, so they would sell the same number. All the hardcore people would buy 3 copies or more, or get more, to farm starters, because you couldn't trade your friend's starter, because then they lose their starter. You need to buy 3 copies for 3 starters.
And now you've got this copy.
And you know what they could do is they could put 3 different starters in the 2 different colors, and people would have to buy 6 copies to get 6 starters.
You see the evil? This is why I talked about this. This wouldn't be news, except that there are so many ways to be such a dick.
And then you've got 5 copies of Pokemon that have no starter.
And no resale value.
Well, actually...
Well, no, you resell them to people who don't know better.
Well, what you could do, right? If you started a game, you traded the starter for, like, something else, right? So basically, you could trade, like, a level 1 Spiritomb to somebody, right, for their starter. And now that's a used game that has a different starter Pokemon in it that is not usually a starter Pokemon.
Yeah, but a Poke Kid's going to be like, so if I don't get the real starter, fuck you.
But maybe...
Fuck you, old man.
Yeah. That kid would have to go out if he wants to finish his Pokedexes to buy 3 more. Or the thing is, though, it would all depend on how well their security worked, because people could, pirate Pokemon and then try to trade from the pirated Pokemon.
Well, secondary...
which a lot of people do.
A
lot of people, back in the day, I remember the original Pokemon, what people would do is they would get 2 copies. They would use a Game Shark on 1 copy of Pokemon to get all sorts of Pokemons with the Game Shark, and then trade them over to the legitimate un-Game Sharked copy. So it's like, I just traded for these.
6 missing? No, that can't lose.
Yeah, I got 6 Mewtwo's, and they're all level 100 max stat. I made them with a Game Shark, and I traded them over. So I didn't Game Shark this copy of Pokemon. I traded for these. Someone willingly traded me these 6 full-powered Mewtwo's for 6 Pidgeys.
One other prediction I have.
They made the trade.
If this ever happened, I think there would be more theft of Pokemon cartridges.
Oh, man. And wouldn't it be more crushing?
Yeah, oh my God. I imagine kids just crying.
You buy 3 copies of Pokemon. You trade all 3 starters into one of the 3 cartridges, and then someone steals that cartridge. Now you've got to buy 3 more. You can't buy just the 1 more. Right? You got to buy 3 more to get all those 3 starters
to get all
back.
3 kinds. Korera. 3 kinds.
That's fucked up.
So things of the day. When I was a kid, young, I watched Mask, I watched Transformers, I watched He-Man. I wish I hadn't. Didn't watch My Little Pony.
That's for sure. I know you love that Mask, but actually Mask was never on where I lived. I never even knew about it until you loved it.
I watched Mask every goddamn day. Yeah. That was like the show.
Actually, I don't think I've actually seen a full episode of Mask in my life.
Doesn't hold up that well.
No kidding. But I've seen plenty of commercials. I know what it is. I've seen plenty of toys.
Here's the deal. Show not as good as Transformers. Toys way better than Transformers. I know
Transformers are pretty good depending on which one you get.
I will stand
depends on which Transformer.
Fucking hard behind this statement. Mask toys were some of the best.
I know,
but I remember one day I saw the middle of a show and I didn't know what it was at like my aunt's house. And it had a big dinosaur with an exposed like a rib cage and his guts. And he ripped himself open and picked up a girl and like shoved her into his guts.
What the fuck?
And then closed the rib cage.
That sounds like something like that would be in modern like funny webcomics like Dr. Ninja or some shit.
So then
it's not something that would be an 80s cartoon.
I was a young goddamn kid. So later I was in a toy store, and I remember seeing a toy of that where you could open the rib cage and put the thing in. And I didn't remember anything else. And it kind of bothered me for most of my life. I had this lingering memory of what the fuck was that?
Okay.
But I didn't really do a lot of effort. I mean, I Googled around for like dinosaur rib girl stuff.
Yeah, you know what? There's that one show that's all about like the canyons and there's like ropes. There were toys.
Oh, yeah, I had a friend who had all those toys.
Right, and I had a couple of them, and I had a friend who had even more, and like Wyatt remembered the name of the show, and then I found it online like 3 times, but every time I look it up online, I find it. I'm like, aha, that was that show.
What's it called?
I forget.
Yep.
I keep looking it up, remembering it, and then forgetting it. But it's a show where these basically the toys and the guys would have ropes that would be like in the Grand Canyon and other places.
They're gonna need more rope.
And all the toys were like vehicles that slid back and forth along the ropes, and the soldiers also slid back and forth along the ropes while shooting at each other.
I made toys with string that did the same thing. Anyway.
Yeah.
The show is called Inhumanoids, thanks to James Rolfe, the angry video game nerd / proprietor of Cinemassacre, who just reviewed it 4 days ago. The screenshot on the page, I clicked on it because I watch everything he does, and I saw the ribcage. I'm like, what? What? No fucking way. And you know what? The show is way sicker and more hardcore than I thought it was.
Yeah, this show, actually, based on this review, which is all I've ever heard of this show, I actually kind of want to see it. Kinda.
So, mystery of my childhood solved.
Yeah, there's another mystery of my childhood that I haven't been able to find by searching on the internet. I had one toy from this. It was some sort of weird... I never actually watched an episode of it, but I had one toy. It was some sort of thing. It was sort of medieval-ish styling, but dark. And basically, the shtick was all the guys had shields with crazy holograms in their shields. And it was, like...
Oh, that was Greystar.
Is it?
I just made that up. I had no idea.
I was like, what? I don't think that's what it is.
There's no such thing as Greystar.
Yeah, it doesn't sound... I think it was Hollow something. But the whole shtick was the toys all had holograms on them. So it'd be like action figures, and they have like a hologram somewhere on them that would be all, like the single-colored style of hologram that was all 3D-ish.
Yeah.
Anyway. So thing of the day. So you remember we did a show a while back on, at least I think we did, on Retro Video Game Master, the DS game.
Oh yeah, that's a really good game.
It's a really good game. Apparently, I don't know if I knew this and forgot it like I did with the name of the show with the ropes, or if I never knew it. But Candlejack. Apparently, this is actually, that video game was based on a TV show. Where, Areno plays games and tries to beat them. So... they were trying to look, actually, the people who made the show were actually trying to get it licensed internationally.
Huh?
And interestingly enough, Kotaku, in a very smart move, licensed the show for U.S. internet distribution.
Oh shit, son.
It kind of sucks because they're forced by, their contract to use a video player that blocks people outside of North America. So if you're not in Canada, U.S., or Mexico, you can't really watch it unless you get a proxy or something, just like we can't watch BBC iPlayer or listen to Spotify.
Yep, because there's no way to get a proxy going. That's just impossible.
No, it's just impossible. But yeah, or, find someone who ripped the video to some other, place that you can watch.
Oh, God, it's always all on BitTorrent.
Yeah, anyway, so they, translated and put subtitles on an episode of this show, and they're going to do an episode every week, so the next episode should be actually Thursday.
Nice.
Every Thursday they're going to do an episode. They're not doing them in order. And it doesn't look like they're doing every episode, but it looks like they're picking the episodes based on how awesome they think they are. So the first episode they picked was Ninja Gaiden.
Oh, Ninja Gaiden.
No, it's Ninja Gaiden. Anyway, and yeah, the game is balls hard. But I've watched the full episode, and it's actually really like the show. So I recommend you watch it every Thursday on Kotaku, despite them being determined to stick with their really horrible format of their blog.
Yep.
Yeah.
So in the meta moment, the book club book is still...
Foundation.
By?
Asimov.
Yes.
We're going to do an episode on it on Thursday, right?
I didn't finish reading it.
Can you finish it by Thursday? It's short.
Yeah, I got to go find it.
How far did you get?
I read a few pages, and then I was reading other stuff.
Well, maybe this Thursday. If not this Thursday, the following Thursday
It's later on somewhere. I'll find it and read it.
Right.
I've been busy.
Yeah.
Playing Team Fortress.
I didn't finish it yet either, but it's so short that I'm going to definitely finish it by Thursday.
Yep, and we're just doing the first one. We're not doing the whole
Yeah, it's actually
series.
a trilogy. A lot of times you can buy it as all 3 in one volume. Actually, there's more than 3, but it's really the 3 are the foundation. But we're only going to do the first book because I like, I'm still trying to keep it easy.
The unofficial book club book is still all of the Prince of Nothing books by R. Scott Bakker. You should get in on this.
Once I finish Foundation, I'm going to go back to rereading that.
Yep, and we're going to do a show on all the Prince of Nothing stuff because people are talking about it again. And you can tell, because you'll know it's like a club. The people who have read those books make a surprising number of inside jokes that you will not be getting until you read them.
Yeah, it's like there's a lot of popular fantasy series out there, you know.
But how
like
many Bilbo Baggins jokes can you make?
I mean, there's Lord of the Rings, there's Games of Thrones, there's what's the Wheel of Time.
Yeah, but I mean,
right? But it's like those things are all pretty popular, right? And I haven't read most of them. So I mean, I've read Lord of the Rings, obviously, but like, I haven't read Wheel of Times or Games of Thrones.
Or like the Lies of Loch Lamora. There's no like, there aren't really.
I think it's Loch Lamora.
There aren't inside jokes to the degree that there are in the Prince of Nothing.
There are inside jokes,
but they're more
Loch
complex.
Lamora.
They're not. There aren't as many like a man's got to remember.
Anyway, but yeah. So you should read Prince of Nothing. It's the official fantasy series of Geeknights.
Kineticon is in Hartford, Connecticut. Not this weekend, but next weekend.
The weekend after the 4th of July weekend.
June 8th, 9th, and 10th. We are doing very few panels.
But we're in charge of panels.
Yes, we're running the panels department.
And also, if we get some free time, we're going to be playing some games.
We got some motherfucking panelists this year. We had more submissions to this Kineticon than Kineticon has ever seen.
Which means we rejected a lot of the crap because we had more goods.
Actually, we had a lot of good I had to reject.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I feel really bad for some things I had to turn
down. People really
liked
liked our selection last year.
Yeah, and we're only up in it.
If I can manage to get this pocket guide printed, then we'll be in serious business.
Yeah, we're up in the ante. I mean, every year Kineticon's getting better, but it's come a long way from the year where we showed up, got our badges after tricking someone into giving them to us, found a program guide, looked through, circled all the panels that sounded like ones that
actually,
but
the thing is, the first year we went was way awesome when they gave us itineraries. And
yep, I have sent itineraries to most of our panelists.
Nice.
Yeah. Anyway, PAX Prime is coming up. We're doing one panel, I can say now, on Saturday at noon, probably in the bigger panel room. I think I am safe to say that it is our brand new panel, that we've got some exciting technology to use. And we may or may not be doing panel-like things that are not our normal panels in the rest of our time, instead of doing the panels we did at PAX East.
Yeah, I mean, we've done so many PAXs, right? It's like I feel that like I can do something at a PAX and not feel bad about wasting a PAX day, because I won't be wasting it, first of all. But like doing something special and missing some PAX things is like, I'm going to be going to like 50 plus PAXs in my life, hopefully, if I live, right? So I think I'm going to make a day of RPG. I guess if our panel's Saturday, I might make it Friday.
Well, if you're doing a day of RPG, there might be something we might be doing related to that in an official manner.
But just like basically what a day of RPG is just one of the possible ideas I have, right? Would be, obviously if it's going to be a Friday, right? It's after keynote, play an RPG, play another RPG, play another until they kick you out. Just you probably get 3 or 4 sessions of one shots.
We also may or may not be at PAX Dev. I cannot say anything on that front yet. And that's all the matter.
Yeah, I hope they got to tell us about that PAX Dev so we can buy the right plane tickets and hotels and stuff. Hurry up with that, guys.
Yeah, but I'm sure they'll get there. The schedule's about half online currently.
All right.
So, Small World.
Small World.
Small World.
Well, I think before we talk about Small World,
Philippe Keyaerts.
It's a small world.
Don't even.
We got to talk about Vinci.
So Small World is made
we got to talk about Vinci first.
No, I'm saying by Philippe Keyaerts.
And Vinci is made by Philippe Keyaerts.
As is another game called Evo, which is a fun little game that I played once at RIT with Professor Richmond.
I'm trying to remember if I played that.
The little evolution game.
I don't remember. I remember Evo for the SNES.
Different. Oh my God, that game was awesome and
but
terrible.
Anyway, so we were at a gaming store one day, and there was this game Vinci on the discount table, right? And Alex was, and then he bought it. And I basically all he'd heard about the game was that it was A, out of print, and B, that there were some flaws in it. Like I knew they had typos and some other like flaws in the instructions. So we got Vinci at the discount bin. And we played it, and it was actually a fantastic game, right? And basically, the idea of Vinci is it's sort of Risk-like, where you have units and you conquer space territories on a map.
Well, we did a whole show on it.
Oh, did we?
In 2007.
Oh, so go back and listen to our 2007 Vinci show.
So basically, Small World is the same game remade with a skin.
Right, so that basically Vinci had those flaws with it. So the same guy, years later, as in a couple years ago, maybe a year or two ago, he remade the game, changed a bunch of the rules to polish it up. He changed the theme to make it fantasy-like. So
as opposed to abstract.
Generic Europe,
Yep.
medieval crap, right? So that it would sell on game shelves. He fixed the typos. He basically redid the game while keeping most of the rules. So it's 90% the same game.
Put out by Days of Wonder, so
You
it's
might
going
as
to be
well
in the
call
right
it-
shelves
Yeah,
next to all the other Days of Wonder games
You
that
might
are
as well
surprisingly
call
popular.
it. You might as well call it Vinci 2.0, right? And he put out this game, Small World, and we bought it, and we finally got around to playing it, despite it being crazy popular.
And you know what? It's pretty good. If you were on the hedge, you might as well just buy it. It's a solid
Yeah, I
game.
mean, you're
to
not.
own.
It's not like you're gonna buy a copy of Vinci,
No.
right? So you might as well buy a copy of Small World.
Now, one thing I have to say, this is kind of an aside, but I've never had this experience until now of having played a game and knew the rules very well, and then having played a game that is based on that game so much that it's almost the same game. It is way harder to learn the rules of the second game that's almost the same.
Well, I think it's because you don't put in the full effort of reading the rules straightforwardly, right? Because what you do is you just
'cause I
look,
know
you
all
look
the rules.
right. So you look for the rules differences and you skip over the rest. But the other problem with that is you get to a section of the rule book and you say, "Oh, I know this rule," and you skip over it. But really, there might have been something different in there you missed because you skipped over it because you're not.
Also, Days of Wonder games have kind of crap instructions usually, which makes it kind of hard to parse anyway.
It's kind of hard. It's like once you know a rule, it's hard. It's like it's easier to search a rule book with your eyes if you don't know the rules at all than it is to search them, being very familiar with them.
Yeah, well, this is an aside. This is definitely in the shit-talking stage, but after PAX and after things calmed down, I started on this privately because I realized that 90% of the rules I've ever read for any board game piss me off, and I know exactly what to fix because I've written so much tech documentation in my life.
Yep.
I want to write a stupid RFC, and here's how to write the rules for a board game.
People already... The thing is that information's already out there, but people don't...
It's not in a format that people who write board game rules would ever find. It's also not obvious. It is not like, do this, then this, in this exact format. You pig fuckers. That's just, I'm going for it. But anyway, so we ran into weird problems. Like, we're playing, and then halfway through the game, we're like, wait a minute, do you have to be contiguous? Because in Vinci... you had to be contiguous. You were
you
fucked
couldn't in Vinci.
If you got bisected.
You weren't allowed to have, say, a territory on the left and a territory on the right. All your territories had to be touching each other, unless you had, what was it, astronomy or something like that.
It was the one that lets you be
Messages?
discontiguous.
There was basically a special power that let you be discontiguous. Otherwise, you couldn't. You had to keep all your stuff connected. But in Small World, we couldn't find a rule in the rule book. Correct us if we're wrong. That says you had to be connected. You could actually let your guys split up. You could take all, it didn't matter.
Yep, we might be wrong. We only played the game twice.
And I checked the rules. I couldn't find anything about being forced to be contiguous, which significantly changes the game.
So huge
Because you can
differences.
basically conquer a territory temporarily for a turn and then abandon it to get more valuable territories on the other side.
So the gist of the game, in case you've never played Vinci, is that there's a set of races and a set of powers, and they are randomly combined into a list, like, Dragon Rider Elves, or Spectral Giants.
Stout Gnomes.
Actually, I had Spectral Ratmen, which was both hilarious and overpowered.
Yes. The ones that we noticed that were overpowered were Spirit is definitely overpowered.
I don't think they're overpowered. I think the people we played with did not optimally fuck.
Possibly.
But so you pick a race, and there's like a loadout, a draft. So if you want to pick one, it's free if it's at the top of the list. You have to pay victory points to skip over them to get one further down the list.
Yeah.
And you leave those victory points on the ones you didn't take, which is a very elegant way of balancing the game.
Yeah, so initially at the beginning of the game, there is sort of a random factor, right? If you go first and an awesome combination is in the first slot, you can get it for free without having to pay victory points.
But going first appears to be a disadvantage in the long run.
It does, because by going onto the board first, everyone can just come in on top of you, and there's not much you can do about it, unless you're like the super strong defensive hobbits or something like that.
So you come onto the board. The game is deterministic with one twist, in that to conquer a territory, you pick up all your guys from the board, except the ones who are holding on to territories every round, and then you throw them all back on the board. And instead of Risk, where it's like, all right, I roll the dice to see if my 10 guys beat your 4 guys or whatever, it costs 2 guys to take a territory, +1 for every enemy guy on it, plus any other modifiers that may be in place, like forest +1, mountain +1.
So it's completely deterministic, all the combat. It's like, it requires this many units to conquer these territories, but everyone has a limited number of units, so you can only expand your empire so far, and you can't do it all in one turn. You have to do it over the course of many turns.
Also, the more you expand, the less you expand in the future, and the more difficult it is to defend, because you have more places to defend with a limited number of units. Also, every race gets a different number of units.
So what you do is when you've sort of reached the limit of your expansion, or you don't feel, right, what you do is you decline. And
Diocletian!
That empire now becomes a declining empire. You basically stop playing it, but it stays on the board, and you go and you get a new empire.
And you keep getting points from it.
Right, but you get points from the old empire. So what you want to do is you want to have a big old empire that still exists, and a big current empire that still exists, and you want them both simultaneously so we can get double points from having two
points
simultaneous empires, an old one and a new one. And then as the old one gets disintegrated, then you decline the new one and you come onto the board with another one. So you always have two going, and you cycle them, and then you get the most points and win.
Now this mechanic is awesome because it works a lot like a Formula 1 race with the pitting. You basically have to pit, and when you decline, you do it at the start of your turn, but you get victory points from your turn at the end of your turn. So on a normal turn, you do all your conquest, get all your victory points, you probably have a whole bunch of bonus powers from your race. If you decline, you do fuck all.
You don't
just
do anything.
Flip over all your guys, all your powers go away.
You get some points.
You get some points.
Not a lot.
And then you don't come back onto the board until the next round. It feels really rough to decline.
Unless you have, stout. If you're stout, which is the same thing as rebirth in Vinci, you can decline at the end of your turn, which means you can take a turn and then decline, and then without wasting a turn, which is incredibly powerful.
Now, when you decline, it's like being punched in the face. It's like playing Age of Steam. But remember, when you're playing this game, everybody has to decline at some point.
Yeah, and when you come back onto the board, it's like super awesome, tally-ho, here I come with a brand new set of guys, and I can just kick someone right in the ass because they left the edge of the board undefended.
Kablah.
Yep.
So the game pretty much is that, and it goes a set number of turns, and then the game is over. Unlike Vinci, which went to a set number of victory points.
Yeah, that's much more interesting, right? I mean, in Vinci, it was a set number of victory points. You had to work really hard to schedule your declines, right? Because declining on the final turn of the game can only hurt you, right? So it's all about when is the game going to end, how many turns are left. In Small World, you know exactly how many turns are left.
That's a huge dynamic changer, coupled with the fact that Vinci had open scoring. It had, the 90s style score tracker on the board.
Mm-hmm.
Small World has victory point tokens that are supposed to be kept secret. Now, you can keep count. It's basically just a who can actually keep count thing. But I think what they were trying to remove from the game is the fact that the end of Vinci always came down to Pete is winning. I'm going to fuck Pete in the ass to prevent him from going over the edge.
Yeah, because not everyone has counted the victory points, and
I count him. I know exactly who to fuck.
I absolutely counted them, but not everyone has counted them. Therefore, it's difficult to convince everyone to say gang up on the leader. And also, ganging up on the leader isn't necessarily going to help you win, because you're not going to say delay the end of the game, because the end of the game is coming no matter what. So if they've already got more points, the only thing you can do with a limited number of turns is maximize your points. In Vinci, you could actually slow the game down. Attacking the leader would actually, give you another turn possibly. Whereas in Small World, attacking the leader, unless that's the optimal way for you to get points, isn't going to help you as much.
This also removes some of the tension from the end of the game, because if you don't know exactly when the game's going to end, you might have to really make a tough decision as to whether or not to decline. The game might end. You might get fucked. You don't know. In this game, if you decline in the last round, you're an idiot.
Yeah, it's like I just looked, and I won the second game we played demonstratively, right? And what I did is, I had spirit guys who stayed around the whole game getting me points. So that helped a lot. But the other thing I did was I basically looked and I said, with this many players, this is going to be 10 turns. I think it was 10 turns, right? I said, I will decline on these turns. And I did exactly that. I kept to that schedule, and I declined exactly 3 times, I think.
And because the game is clockwise, it is the exact same end game dynamic that happens in El Grande with the big and the low bidding.
Yep.
The exact same thing.
So if I play, with any number of players, doesn't matter. I'm going to look at how many turns there are. I'm going to figure out the optimal declining schedule, and I'm going to try to pick my combinations based on, of course, how many points they'll get me, but also, will they stick to my declining schedule, right? If I'm behind, I got to pick a race that will be able to decline more quickly. Or if I'm ahead, then I got to pick a slow race that needs like 3 turns to expand. I'll be like, how many turns will it take for that race to decline? That's how I'm going to judge them when I pick them, right? That's a 2-turn race. That's a 3-turn. That's a 4-turn. And then I could pick and so that I decline at exactly the right times to get the maximum points out of every single turn.
So the races and the powers in Vinci, they were very abstract.
But in Vinci, there weren't separate races and powers. It was just chits, and they could be combined any which way.
Yep, you could have double and something.
Yeah, you could have double barbarian. You could have,
my God, that's a lot of barbarians.
Diplomacy currency. You could have, astronomy and mining. You could have all sorts of just combinations.
But the powers were also very abstract and usually came down to numbers games.
Yep.
In Small World, the powers are all way out there Dune-style crazy bullshit. Like some guys get dragon that they can just put somewhere and is fucking invincible.
Yep. But at the same time, there's a lot less diversity in terms of the number of units you get, right?
Yes.
So in Vinci, you could have one civilization could have like 5 units,
and one guy's got like 14.
Could have 14. In this, all of the special powers have either 3, 4, or 5. Most of them have 4. Only one of them has 3. And all the races, the diversity in the number of units they get is very small.
The game gives you the exact minimum number of pieces.
Yeah. So almost everyone has like 9, 10, 11-ish guys. Almost everyone. I think you could have as many. I think there's a combination that lets you have like 13, maybe.
Yep. Now,
and there is a combination that lets you have like 5, which is the dwarf, dwarf something.
The equivalent of currency.
Yeah, I picked that combination and I got hosed.
So this factor of the fact that the numbers are pretty much all in line and the powers are all equally crazy means that the game is almost too well balanced. Like, no matter what civilization you pick, unless you pick those fucking dwarves with the currency, you're coming onto the board roughly as strong as everyone else. It's very balanced and very deterministic and very, I don't know, I dislike it a little bit compared to Vinci because of that.
Yeah, in Vinci, for example, if you picked mining, you would go for the pickaxes on the board, and they would be worth 2 points, and that was crazy awesome. And you would, right? So everyone would be like, oh shit, don't let him take the, crap, he's got mining mountaineering, fuck. And
but in Small World, you can pretty much, with any civilization, you have like 4 different ways to come onto the board that are equally viable, and it mostly doesn't matter who you attack.
Yeah, it's like, and there's nothing that gives you that many points that is so much greater than everything else. So it's like, okay, these guys get points on green, and these guys get points on wizard marks, and these guys get points on this.
So
everyone's gonna get bonus points from something.
It's a better, tighter game in some ways, which at the same time reduces certain kinds of strategies from the previous game.
Yeah, it's like on the one hand, we should be happier there's less randomness, but on the other hand, it's like, well, it's so,
but they added randomness with the die. In Vinci,
I forgot about that.
In Vinci, you throw out all your guys, and you have extra guys, that's it. In this, if you've got one guy left, at least, you can roll this die. You have a chance of conquering one more thing, which is great in that it unsticks the game, but it's also a little bad in that it's random. But I feel like if that weren't in the game, I would have just given up on this game. Because it's so well balanced that without that little bit of randomness, it would have immediately solidified.
Yeah, it's weird that they right? And the thing is, they putting victory points on the races to skip over them is civilizations is supposed to be the factor that makes up for the fact that they're so unbalanced.
Well, because it cost way more to skip them in Vinci, too. It only costs 1 victory point, and you get a fuck ton of victory points in Small World.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's like, in Vinci, it's like, okay, one civ might be way more powerful than another one, but you got to pay a lot to skip over to the good ones. So it's okay that they're unbalanced because some guy who gets stuck with a crappy civ is going to get a ton of victory points.
Getting victory points from taking a Small World civ that wasn't great for the map never really seems to matter.
No, it doesn't help you at all. You might as well pay the 4 victory points to get something more awesome, right?
But that, while I have these complaints, the game is still great. Like they're balanced out by one. The theme is great. Like the icons on the characters and their little like logos are pretty great.
Yeah, the art of this game. I mean, the Vinci art was pathetic.
Utilitarian.
Yeah.
I liked it. It looked a lot like the game with the rondel.
No, what's that called?
Antique. Yeah.
But there's actually a Rondel series, you know.
I know. I always kind of want to buy it. Then I remember that Antique wasn't that great.
No. Goa is great, though.
Yeah.
It's not a Rondel game.
And also the game, it tokenized a lot of the stuff that you just had to know in the old game. Like, pretty much every power has tokens to represent it. There are so many unique pieces to make sure that you know the count. Everything is uniform. It's kind of like if Vinci were 2nd edition D&D, then this is 3rd edition.
Yep.
Everything's tokenized, everything's literal, everything's worth 1, everything's very simplified. It makes the game very accessible, and it's still a great game. It's just...
Yeah, I mean, to make a game that is actually, you know, Vinci, kind of a, you know, somewhat hardcore game, right? To make it as accessible as Small World has made it is quite a design accomplishment.
I consider it equal to Vinci. They're equal but different. If you like one, you will probably like the other, but you will like them for different reasons.
And they're so similar, you know, despite being different, that only hardcore people will care about these differences, and the vast majority of people will just love either game.
Yep.
But the vast majority of people will like Small World better because it's more well produced and, you know, streamlined and easier rules and better arts and all that stuff. So
it's a great game.
Just
should
fucking
buy it.
play Small World if you haven't is the reason it's popular. Now
there are a million expansions.
I haven't played any of them, but my suspicion is that some of them are probably good and some of them are probably Carcassonne Catapult.
I was gonna say the Catapult.
I have no idea which ones are good, which ones are bad, if any. I will have to do this research at a later date.
Yep. So buy the game. If you're a board gamer, it's a game that it deserves a place in your library.
Oh, absolutely.
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geeknights is not 1, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.